कि don't be panicky. And the government of India has
Hello and good evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has laid the foundation stone for an ambitious water project in Manipur today, and he's also called the Northeast the engine of the country's growth. We'll get you details on that tonight on Newsnight, and we'll also be talking about the rising confrontation and tension between the US and China after the Trump administration decided to close the Chinese consulate in Houston and what it all means for not just the relationship but the entire world. We'll be talking about that with our guests tonight as well. I'm Gautam Roy, and let's begin with our headlines. Prime Foundation stone for Manipur water supply project under the Jal Jeevan mission says water supply through the project will serve as a lifeline. It will also provide employment to thousands of people. Terms the mission to supply piped water to 15 crore households by 2024, a people's movement. The PM says the Northeast can become the development engine of the country as peace is being established across the region. The government is making constant efforts to improve connectivity by boosting the transport infrastructure. Says an ease of living movement has been on for the last 6 years. Stresses upon being vocal for local. India tirelessly fights COVID-19. Nearly 30,000 people recovered during the last 24 hours. Recovery rate crosses 63% mark across the country. Over 7.82 lakh people have recovered. The PM says even during the COVID phase, the nation has not stopped or become tired, but the battle has to go on till a vaccine is made available. The Ministry of External Affairs says Pakistan has shut doors on all efforts to resolve the Kulbhushan Jadhav case. Terms its approach on the matter farcical. There's plain speak on China as well, says no question of accepting any change in the status quo at the LSE, likelihood of another high-level meeting between the two sides soon. Tensions mount between the US and China after the State Department decides to tell Beijing to shut down its consulate in Houston. President Donald Trump says more Chinese consulates in the US could be closed down. The measure was taken to protect private data and intellectual property. Way paved for women to play larger roles in the armed forces. The government issues order for grant of permanent commission to women officers in all 10 streams of the army. IMB Minister says this is real empowerment of women. Home Minister Amit Shah kicks off a major tree plantation drive. Remotely inaugurates 6 eco parks. Says trees are friends of human and will protect humanity from the ill effects of global warming. Also gives clarion call for bringing down coal imports to zero to realize Prime Minister Modi's dreams. The government launches an online system for issuing transit permits for timber, bamboo and other forest produce. Union Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar says it will help business opportunities grow in states and difficulties will also be reduced. And the flood situation in Assam and Bihar remains worrisome. Water level in some rivers goes down. Assam Governor Jagdish Mukhi carries out an aerial survey of some of the worst affected areas. Tells the administration to give all help to those who've been affected. The PM says the centre is working with all the states to lend all possible help. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid the foundation stone for a drinking water supply project in Manipur today through a video link. The project costs 3,000 crore rupees and is part of the Jal Jeevan mission, which aims to provide piped water connections to 15 crore homes with a Har Ghar Jal intent. While launching the project, the PM said the Northeast has the potential to become the country's growth engine, and peace is now being established throughout the entire region.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid the foundation stone for the water supply project in Manipur on Thursday through a video conference. He said that the foundation stone laying program is an example of the fact that even during the crisis triggered by COVID-19 pandemic, the country has not stopped working. The water supply project is being implemented at a cost of rupees 3,000 crore. Prime Minister added that it would reduce the water problems of the state and would be especially providing a huge relief to the women of Manipur. The project has been designed keeping in mind needs of the next 20 to 22 years, and lakhs of people will get access to clean water while thousands will get employment. He called the project a gift to the sisters of Manipur.
लगभग 3,000 करोड़ रुपए की लागत से पूरे होने वाले मणिपुर वाटर सप्लाई प्रोजेक्ट से यहां के लोगों को पानी की दिक्कतें कम होने वाली है। ग्रेटर इंफाल सहित छोटे बड़े 25 शहर और कस्बे 1700 से ज्यादा गांवों के लिए इस प्रोजेक्ट से जो जलधारा निकलेगी, ये जलधारा जीवन धारा का काम करेगी। इस प्रोजेक्ट से लाखों लोगों को घर में पीने का साफ पानी तो उपलब्ध होगा ही, हजारों लोगों को रोजगार भी मिलेगा।
Prime Minister recalled that Jal Jeevan Mission was launched with a target of providing piped water to more than 15 crore households. He added that today, about 1 lakh water connections are being installed every day in the country. He said that ease of living is a necessary prerequisite for a better life and is right of all, including the poor. Prime Minister added that steps have been taken in the last 6 years at every level, in every field, to improve the ease of living, especially for the poor. He added that work is on a mission mode to provide safe drinking water to every household.
ईज ऑफ लिविंग, जीवन जीने में आसानी। ईज ऑफ लिविंग, जीवन जीने में आसानी, ये बेहतर जीवन की एक जरूरी पूर्व शर्त है। पैसा कम हो सकता है, ज्यादा हो सकता है, लेकिन ईज ऑफ लिविंग, इस पर सबका हक है। और विशेष करके हमारे हर गरीब भाई बहन, माता बहने, दलित, पिछड़े, आदिवासी, उनका हक है। इसलिए बीते 6 वर्षों में भारत में ईज ऑफ लिविंग का भी एक बहुत बड़ा आंदोलन चल रहा है।
Prime Minister also stressed upon the vast potential for development that exists in the Northeast region, adding that work is progressing on every front in the region. He said that the results are becoming visible too. Prime Minister said that modern infrastructure is being developed in the Northeast along with roadways, highways, airways, waterways and highways as well as gas pipelines. He said that the connectivity of Northeast is essential for a secure and sure Atmanirbhar Bharat. He said that these projects would give a fillip to India's Act East policy, and it would also provide a gateway to the country's travel and tourism sector.
म्यांमार, भूटान, नेपाल और बांग्लादेश के साथ हमारे सामाजिक व्यापारिक रिश्तों को मजबूती देती है। वहीं भारत की एक्ट ईस्ट पॉलिसी को भी सशक्त करती है। हमारा ये नॉर्थ ईस्ट एक प्रकार से पूर्वी एशिया के साथ हमारे प्राचीन सांस्कृतिक रिश्तों को और भविष्य के ट्रेड, ट्रैवल और टूरिज्म, उन रिश्तों का गेटवे है। इसी सोच के साथ मणिपुर सहित पूरे नॉर्थ ईस्ट में कनेक्टिविटी से जुड़े इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर निरंतर बल दिया जा रहा है।
Prime Minister said that Northeast is a representative of India's cultural diversity and cultural strength and stressed that Northeast should become the growth engine of the country. He said that the youth of the region are now looking for development and have shunned violence.
अब पूरे नॉर्थ ईस्ट में शांति की स्थापना हो रही है। जहां से पहले सिर्फ नेगेटिव खबरें ही आती थी, वहां अब पीस, प्रोग्रेस और प्रॉस्पेरिटी का मंत्र गूंज रहा है। और आज ब्लॉकेड बीते हुए कल की बात बन गई। वहीं असम में दशकों से चला आ रहा हिंसा का दौर थम गया है। त्रिपुरा और मिजोरम में भी युवाओं ने हिंसा के रास्ते को त्याग किया है। अब ब्रू रियांग शरणार्थी एक बेहतर जीवन की ओर बढ़ रहे हैं।
Prime Minister further said that the Northeast has the potential to replace India's bamboo import with local production. He said that clusters are being developed for value addition and marketing of local products under the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. He also exhorted the northeastern states to encourage the farming of palmolin and establish a palmolin mission in their respective areas. With inputs from Sudhakar Das, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And the battle against the coronavirus pandemic is raging on across the country. The recovery rate has crossed the 63% mark and all measures are being taken by the centre and states to ensure the disease is contained and the chain of transmission broken, including periodical lockdowns in more affected areas. The day also saw the PM remarking that India is moving forward even during these tough times. It's working non-stop and tirelessly to combat the virus.
The battle against COVID pandemic has intensified. The recovery rate of COVID patients in India is improving steadily. Data released on Thursday reveals that the number of people recovering per day has also increased. The last 24 hours saw the highest ever single day number of patients cured and discharged at 29,557. The total number of patients who have recovered has risen to 7,82,606. The recovery rate has also increased to 63.18%. The gap between recovered patients and active COVID cases has further widened to 3,56,439. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reiterated that till a vaccine is developed, everyone must continue to take required precautions and fight the challenge of the pandemic together.
कोरोना के इस संकट काल में भी देश रुका नहीं है, देश थमा नहीं है और देश थका भी नहीं है। जब तक वैक्सीन नहीं आती है, जहां कोरोना के खिलाफ हमें मजबूती से लड़ते रहना है, विजयी होना है, वहीं विकास के कार्यों को भी पूरी ताकत से आगे बढ़ाना है।
Local administrations have been put on alert in states that are recording a sharp rise in number of COVID cases. Kerala Assembly session has been cancelled in view of the pandemic. In Madhya Pradesh, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan reviewed the efforts to tackle COVID outbreak. In view of the spike in cases in Bhopal, state government has decided to impose lockdown for 10 days starting from midnight of 24 July.
24 तारीख की रात से मतलब 25 की सुबह से 10 दिन के लिए भोपाल में पूर्णतः लॉकडाउन रहेगा। आना जाना दोनों ही प्रतिबंधित रहेगा। अगर किसी को आना और जाना है तो वो ई पास के माध्यम से आ जा सकता है।
West Bengal government has admitted to community spread in various parts of the state. To contain the spread of the deadly disease, state government has opted the recourse of total lockdown in the state. Lockdown will be observed twice in a week. Jammu and Kashmir administration has imposed a 6-day lockdown in all red districts from yesterday till July 27th. Except Bandipora, 9 districts in the valley have been declared as red zones. Movement of essential and emergency services will remain unaffected. In Manipur, state government announced a 14-day complete lockdown in the entire state. All essential services will be exempted from the purview of the lockdown. In Arunachal Pradesh, the state registered a new high in single-day increase in cases. 91 new cases were recorded in the past 24 hours, taking the total tally of confirmed cases to 949. Rapid antigen tests are being conducted in different places in Itanagar capital region. The joint efforts of the centre and state government has helped manage the fatality rate of COVID-19 in India. The fatality rate in India is 2.4% and is amongst the lowest in the world. With inputs from Nitendra Singh, News Night Desk, DD India.
And the flood situation in Assam and Bihar still remains grim, though water level in some rivers has been going down today. The day saw Assam Governor Jagdish Mukhi conducting an aerial survey of some of the most affected areas in the state and directing the administration give all help to the affected people. The PM also said that the centre is standing shoulder to shoulder with the flood-affected states and all help needed is being provided.
The floods have ravaged large swaths of territories in India's northeast and Bihar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi noted that northeast India is dealing with the double challenge of COVID-19 and floods. He assured people of northeast that the country stands with them in this tough time.
मैं सभी प्रभावित परिवारों के प्रति संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं। इस मुश्किल घड़ी में मैं आप सब को विश्वास दिलाता हूं, पूरा देश आपके साथ खड़ा है। भारत सरकार कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर के सभी राज्य सरकारों के साथ जो भी आवश्यकता है, हर प्रकार के काम करने के लिए लगातार प्रयास कर रही है।
In Assam, Governor Jagdish Mukhi undertook an aerial survey of flood-affected areas and assured all possible help to the citizens.
मैंने प्रशासन को हिदायत दी है कि वो तुरंत जो राहत की सामग्री है हर एक व्यक्ति तक शीघ्र पहुंचाने का काम करें और साथ ही जो उनके मवेशी हैं उनको भी प्रोटेक्ट करने की व्यवस्था करें।
Assam Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonopal, on the other hand, visited Solmari in Rangia under Kamrup district, which is affected by floodwaters of Puthimari river, and assessed the damages and government relief measures put in place for the flood hit. The Chief Minister interacted with the relief camp inmates and took stock of the condition as well as the quality of food items being served at the camp. The number of affected population continues to swell past 26.5 lakh, with 26 districts reeling under waters. As many as 8 major rivers of the state were flowing above the danger mark, including the Brahmaputra at 5 places. Over 47,000 people were taking shelter in 286 relief camps in different affected parts.
अभी जो स्थिति जहां सेंसिटिव बनी हुई है वो ज़्यादातर बिहार और असम की स्थिति कही जाएगी, जहां पर बाढ़ की स्थिति बनी हुई है और वहां हम लोगों ने असम में 16 टीमें और बिहार में 21 टीमों को तैनात किया है और लगातार राहत और बचाव का काम वहां हो रहा है।
Close to 6.36 lakh people in nearly a dozen districts in Bihar have been affected by the flood that has cut a swath of destruction across the northern parts of the state. People in 282 panchayats of 10 districts have been affected by the deluge that has displaced more than 13,000 people. Met Office has predicted medium to strong spell of showers in some areas of Bihar on Friday. Hyderabad also witnessed heavy showers on Thursday and many areas were inundated. The Met Office has further predicted heavy rainfall for Friday. News Night Desk, DD India.
Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change Prakash Javadekar has unveiled a National Transit Pass system to ensure seamless movement of forest produce across all states. The National Transit Pass system will benefit ease of movement of all timber, bamboo and other forest produce. The minister highlighted that this automated transit system will enhance trade opportunities across states and will minimize hardships for farmers.
In order to ensure seamless movement of forest produce across all states, National Transit Pass system was unveiled by Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change Prakash Javadekar on Thursday in the national capital. A national portal for interstate, intrastate movement of timber, bamboo and other forest produce was also launched.
ये एक बचत हुई
फ्यूल की, समय की, पैसे की और उसके साथ साथ एक फास्ट मूवमेंट हो गया, समय पर पहुंचने लगा सामान और तेजी से।
Transit of timber, bamboo and other forest produce is governed by various state-specific acts and rules. The decision will help cut the red tapeism and related hurdles in the fast movement of goods. Many state governments have exempted many species and permitted the transport without transit permit. However, many other produce still require transit pass. Moreover, a produce exempted in one state may not be exempted in another, and transit of such produce in another state will eventually require the pass. National Transit Pass system will now generate pan-India transit passes, facilitating seamless movement of forest produce across India.
जो लकड़ी एक राज्य से दूसरे राज्य में जा रहा है तो इतनी यातायात होती थी, इतनी तकलीफ होती थी। अब नेशनल ट्रांजिट पास सिस्टम के द्वारा मोबाइल ऐप से आप एप्लीकेशन कर सकते हैं और मोबाइल ऐप पर ही आपको ई पास मिलेगा। ये जो सुविधा हो रही है, ऑफिस में जाना नहीं पड़ेगा, लोगों की मूवमेंट फास्ट होगी और इससे ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस तो होता ही है, लेकिन हम देश एक तरक्की की ओर जाता है।
The key features of the National Transit Pass system is that it is available as desktop-based web portal as well as mobile application, and hence online registration can be done with both web portal as well as mobile app. The system provides automated process without changing state-specific rules and regulations. Online generation of transit permit or NOC is on the basis of category of species. This also includes e-payment system. The system will expedite issuance of transit permits for timber, bamboo and other minor forest produce without the need of physical verification or going to forest offices. One permit for whole India will go a long way in enhancing the ease of doing business. NTPS will be piloted in Madhya Pradesh and Telangana for testing at this stage. Thereafter, this will be extended to all states and union territories for issuing permits. It will also facilitate seamless movement across state borders from origin to destination through help of mobile app. It will prevent hardships of timber and bamboo producers, farmers and transporters in obtaining permits and at forest checkposts, while at the same time promote agroforestry activities. It will also create a centralized database about timber trade in India. Dheeraj's report, DD News, Delhi.
Let's now get to one of our top stories. US-China relations continue to nosedive as both the nations traded charges after the US ordered the closure of Beijing's consulate in Houston to protect American intellectual property and private information. Further, US President Donald Trump has not ruled out the possibility of closing more Chinese diplomatic missions in the country, clearly indicating that the US is prepared for a possible countermeasure that China has been warning of. The US move has come after the Justice Department said that hackers working with the Chinese government targeted firms developing vaccines to counter the coronavirus.
विस्तारवाद का युग समाप्त हो चुका है। ये युग विकासवाद का है। तेजी से बदलते हुए समय में विकासवाद ही प्रासंगिक है। विकासवाद के लिए ही अवसर है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi did not mince words when he gave the unequivocal message to the world without taking names but making it more than obvious. Days of expansionism are over and now development is the key matrix that defines diplomacy and nations march forward. Many nations have supported the candid message articulated by India, including the United States. Now China and the US were headed for a major diplomatic confrontation as Washington on Wednesday ordered the closure of the Chinese consulate in Houston. US says the move was aimed to protect American intellectual property and private information, hinting at cyber espionage. The US State Department in a brief statement said, "We have directed the closure of People's Republic of China Consulate General Houston in order to protect American intellectual property and Americans' private information." In its statement on the closing of the consulate, the State Department alleged that Chinese agents have tried to steal data from facilities in Texas, including the Texas A&M Medical System statewide and the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. Meanwhile, United States President Donald Trump has said it was always possible he would order the closure of more Chinese consulates in the U.S. in the wake of State Department's order to close Beijing's consulate in Houston.
As far as closing additional embassies, it's always possible. You see what's going on. We thought there was a fire in the one that we did close, and everybody said there's a fire, and I guess they were burning documents or burning papers, and I wonder what that's all about. Surpassed 50 million tests. That's far more than any country in the world. India.
The U.S. government's request to close the Chinese Consulate General in Houston is a political provocation and an outrageous and unjustified move which sabotages China-U.S. relations, said the Chinese embassy in the U.S. on Wednesday. Relations between the two sides have nosedived in the recent months over the coronavirus pandemic, as well as disputes over trade, human rights, Hong Kong, and Chinese assertiveness in South China Sea. Earlier, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Wednesday said the recent clashes initiated by Chinese military against India in eastern Ladakh are the latest examples of the unacceptable behavior of the ruling Chinese Communist Party.
Recent clashes initiated by the PLA are just the latest examples of the CCP's unacceptable behavior. We were deeply saddened by the deaths of 20 Indian service members.
The ambassador's remarks came 2 days after U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper described the Chinese military aggressive activities in the region as destabilizing. India has also said that it is sharing its views with many nations.
We are engaged on the issue of peace and tranquility on our borders with China. We are talking to them through established diplomatic and military channels. Now, since India and China are both permanent countries, there is this issue has attracted interest all over the world. What I can say is that as part of our diplomacy, we are engaged with those interested to convey our viewpoint.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also praised India's recent decision to ban 59 Chinese apps, including TikTok, which he said presents serious security risks to the Indian people. Similar demands for action are also being raised in the U.S. and other nations. Meanwhile, a top American senator has said that United States will work with countries like India, Japan and South Korea to tackle the threat of Chinese surveillance. Democratic Senator Mark Warner is the chairman of Senate Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. In an interaction with members of U.S.-India Security Council, he said China had emerged as a major problem for the U.S. companies doing businesses in that country, and intellectual theft was a big concern. Warner, who is also co-chair of the Senate India Caucus, said he has sponsored an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act to make India a strategic defense partner on a permanent basis. U.S. Ambassador to India Ken Juster has also said that Trump administration has maintained close contact and tremendous cooperation with India on the latest Chinese border aggression, asserting that the last 6 months have been unprecedented in terms of bilateral relationship. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And that brings up our In Focus tonight, which is expansionist China feels global heat. And to talk about it, we have former senior diplomat Vishnu Prakash with us, and also distinguished fellow of the Observe Research Foundation, Harsh Vardhan Pant, also joining us. Ambassador Prakash, first to you. Let's just try and understand why has the US done what it has done, and if you could go into the circumstances that has led up to this, because this is not a one-off and it's not something that has been done on a whim. It's been carried out because of a certain period of observations, not just by the State Department itself, but by other security agencies such as the FBI as well in the US.
Very much so. And the first time the declaration was actually a declaration that was made by the US that China had behaved contrary to US expectations was when the Vice President Mike Pence spoke at one of the think tanks in Washington in October 2018. And he basically said that China, I mean, I'm paraphrasing him, that China has taken advantage of the American system. They have themselves put up walls, they have, but they have penetrated into the American system, that they have been strengthening their military muscle, that they are trying to they have been engaging in all kinds of activities which are prejudicial to the American interest, and this cannot go on. And it has been building up ever since, so much so that day before yesterday or yesterday, Secretary of State made it very clear that the Communist Party of China is a common threat for India and the US. And I would have thought that if the US had taken the kind of stand that it has taken now vis-a-vis China, especially let's say in South China Sea or the other places, it would not have come to such a pass. But it is rather evident that US has decided to cut China to size and has put China on notice that it cannot do business as usual.
Okay, and of course India has taken its own set of measures as well ever since the clash began, and that process is still on, the de-escalation process. But Harshvardhan Pant, where do you see these measures? Let's first just talk about what US and India have done going in terms of the Chinese response, because when you just go by China's words, it seems that it's acting as if it's being blamed unnecessarily, and that it will hit back as well. But what's really happening inside the Communist Party with these measures being taken by different countries that seem to tell China that it can't be business as usual as the way that it's been conducting itself for years and years?
I think the message that is going out to the Chinese at this point in the international system is that China has clearly taken advantage of the kind of norms and institutions and frameworks that are available, and that the business as usual cannot go on, because the countries who have been at the receiving end of this have now realized the challenge that if they don't stand up today, then there might not be any tomorrow. So I think there is a real sense of crisis in the international order, and therefore you see certain steps being taken which perhaps would have been unthinkable just a few months back. Now the question, I think, which is largely in terms of the countries which are like-minded countries coming closer to each other and trying to frame a response to China's aggressiveness at a time when clearly international environment is passing through a very, very difficult phase. And America in particular has decided, the Trump administration has decided, and there is a wider consensus in the American body politic, that look, we have to take on China, because otherwise the consequences might be too dire for us in the longer term. So clearly what you see is a great degree of coordination happening amongst countries, and India also, I think, needs to be given some credit for making it possible for other countries to believe that they can stand up to China. When you were talking about, for example, India banned these apps, Chinese apps. Many had questioned the viability of that.
Right.
But clearly what it did was it generated a momentum around the world, and you see the kind of conversations that are happening today around the world, which and many countries are looking at this particular aspect and how to challenge China, like India has done, standing up to China on numerous occasions and challenging the way China has been conducting its foreign policy. So I think when you look at India and America together, they pose a formidable challenge to Chinese aggressive intentions in the region, and I think that's why it should be welcomed.
Yes, it's not just about the apps which we never said are directed towards a single country, but they were just malicious. We've taken other measures as well, such as not allowing FDI through automatic route from neighboring countries. They would need approval now, so that is something that could be said to be directed to China as well, but that's a matter of perception. But Ambassador Prakash, as far as these measures go, apart from India and the United States, where do you think China, because of all that it's been doing, not just with India and the US, but in the South China Sea and East China Sea as well, in Hong Kong, the global opinion, how do you see it turning, and then of course, you know, coming into action as well?
Well, look at Chinese behavior. If you cast your eye around, you find that practically with every neighbor, starting from the east, Japan, Australia, Canada, US, Vietnam, Philippines, Myanmar, even Bhutan, India, of course, they have been intimidating countries, they have been grabbing land, they have been manufacturing facts. South China Sea, what have they done? They have just manufactured facts and ramming Vietnamese fishing vessels, stopping countries from using their EEZ, wantonly ignoring all international conventions, including the UNCLOS. I mean, there is a limit. What China does is that it enters into agreements with countries with two motives. One is to, it expects its interlocutor to be bound by the agreement, but not China. I mean, the moment their purpose is served or it is against their foreign policy priorities, they just ignore it. So how can a country which claims to be a responsible member of the Committee of Nations flout norms, flout conventions, treaties, agreements, and just use muscle power which has been accumulated by weaponizing the trade advantages that it has got? So I guess, and then let's not forget BRI, which is nothing but a tool to subject underdeveloped countries or developing countries to economic colonization. And then the spying, various agencies, whether there is media, academia, whether they're officials, they are being used as arms for spying and espionage. Every country they are. So a stage comes when the countries draw a line and say, look, this is now, and look at Australia, for example. Australia and China have such close economic relations.
Yes.
And the way Australia, the kind of language that was used against Australia, and Australia drew a line and said, no, nothing doing. So countries have a pride. Today the choice in front of the world is either take a stand, either stare down China, or compromise your digital sovereignty, financial sovereignty, and so on. So that is no longer a choice. So I think the blame lies squarely on the Chinese door to have pushed the world in that direction. And as my colleague was saying, and we were talking, it is about time that like-minded countries speak with the same voice of pushing back at China and saying, look, this is enough. You cannot behave like this.
Yes, we've seen the UK do it as well in terms of 5G. But Harsh Vardhan Pant, as far as the security aspect is concerned, do you feel that countries beyond, say, the Quad, even the Quad, a lot of people saying needs to be further activated, but beyond Quad as well, they will act in tandem strategically as well to counter China's moves?
I think the mood is changing, and the mood is very much in favor of greater coordination, greater cooperation, and as you were discussing, China's behavior has a lot to do with what is happening. I think, in fact, mostly it is Chinese behavior that is pushing countries in a direction that will be extremely detrimental to Chinese own interests. But the issue is whether China is doing it with a sense of strategy, or whether they are doing it because there are domestic vulnerabilities within the Chinese system. I think that's a question only Chinese policymakers can answer. But if you look at the region, the idea of Quad, which till yesterday was seen as a very relatively weak platform for four countries to come together, is suddenly now becoming more and more robust. There is also this idea that Quad should engage and will perhaps engage with other countries in the region. Other countries are interested in greater coordination with Quad. So my sense is that Quad will not be simply Quad, but Quad will be Quad plus eventually. And the joining of hands by amongst these countries will certainly be a defining moment in terms of the balance of power in the region. The question is, for a long time, the question has been raised is that leadership actually was missing. And I think Ambassador Prakash, very rightly mentioned at the very beginning that, look, if the Obama administration had challenged China on some of the claims that the Chinese were making since 2013 on the South China Sea, perhaps the situation would have been very different. And therefore, the questions were, why did America, just cede that space to the Chinese?
Okay.
And now that America is in a mood to, regain some of that space, I think other countries will find that there is greater traction in greater coordination, and so greater coordination will eventually emerge. And India also has been very, very important actor, a very, very important nodal actor in this possibility that we are looking at in terms of the emerging balance of power. And perhaps as these countries in the region fashion a new balance of power, we might see countries not only working together on hard security issues, but countries also challenging China together on issues like BRI, where something at one point in time, India was the only country that was standing up to China. And we were told by even our friends that, look, don't do that, you'll be isolated. But today that's almost accepted across the world. So clearly, I think we can lead by example, and we can make certain choices which I think will be reflected across the region.
And Ambassador Prakash, last of all, let me just play a bit of a devil's advocate here. And, to those people who are saying, what is this going on? Things are already, very, very uncertain right now because of COVID. And now in the middle of all this, we have two, number one, number two, perhaps economic powers clashing. What will happen? And, this kind of a situation can go completely out of hand. What do you say to these people?
Well, it is not of our making. We have not done that. And I laugh at people who say, this is not a good time to have it. I mean, for heaven's sake, is there ever a good time to enter into a confrontation? That is not India's choice. It has been thrust upon India. Now, having thrust upon India, can India look at the watch and say, no, Mr. China, please wait for 4 months and thereafter do that? I mean, you are basically dealing with a rogue state, an expansionist power, which has consciously decided to do what it has, looking at the fact, taking on board the fact that India at the moment is dealing with the pandemic, which has been gifted, quote unquote gifted, by China to the world. I mean, even without attributing any, getting into any other aspect of it, or looking at getting into any sinister motives, the fact is that for 6 weeks they hid it. So, I mean, clearly they have to take responsibility, but no, China having the mandate from heaven does not take responsibility. They blame the other side. They blamed India for what happened on the night of 15th, 16th. So, I guess we have no choice, but now that they have gone ahead and done that, we are going to make sure that there is no repetition, because it's only if you blink, you are tempting the bully to up the ante, and you cannot do that.
Certainly, and that is not what India is doing, and not what, in fact, a lot of countries in the world are doing. They're doing completely the contrary, and we'll have to see which way it goes. Right now, China might be sounding as if it will take some retaliatory measures, especially to the step that the US has taken, but it is bound to hurt them as well. Thanks a lot for joining us this evening, Harsh Vardhan Pant and Ambassador Prakash. All right, now let's get you some more updates that are coming in from across the country as well.
Election Commission has announced deferment of by-polls to vacant Lok Sabha and Assembly seats in different parts of the country that were scheduled to be held on September 7th. The EC has postponed the by-polls in view of COVID-19 pandemic and flood situation in certain states. Elections will be held as soon as the situation becomes conducive. EC will hold a meeting on Friday to decide on schedule and strategies for these by-polls. By-polls are to be conducted in 56 state assembly seats and 1 parliamentary constituency. Due to the prevailing circumstances, Central Seat Allocation Board has decided to relax the eligibility criteria for admissions to NITs and other centrally funded technical institutions. The decision has been taken by the centre due to the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic. This year, JEE Mains qualified candidates will only need to obtain a passing certificate in Class 12 examination, irrespective of the marks obtained. For admissions apart from qualifying the JEE Main, the eligibility was to secure a minimum of 75% marks in Class 12 board exams. In the Kerala gold smuggling case, NIA has interrogated former Principal Secretary to Chief Minister of Kerala, M. Shiv Shankar. He was also questioned last week for 9 hours. In Madhya Pradesh, opposition Congress lawmaker Narayan Patel, hitherto representing Khandwa district's Mandhata, tendered his resignation on Thursday from the assembly and joined the Bharatiya Janata Party. Lok Sabha MP from Delhi, Gautam Gambhir, has said that Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal is doing politics in the name of free ration. He said that under the Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, Modi government has made a provision to provide free ration to 80 crore poor people in the country till November. But Chief Minister Kejriwal is trying to take the credit by changing its name in Delhi. He also accused Chief Minister of ignoring the problem of waterlogging in Delhi.
We'll get you some more updates as far as the External Affairs Ministry's response on the Kulbhushan Jadhav response of Pakistan is concerned. But we're taking a quick break at the moment. Stay tuned.
क्यों बहनों, मिल गई ना खबर कैंप की? हाँ
आशा, तू तो वहाँ मेरी नजर का इलाज करवा।
नजर ही नहीं चाची, नाक, कान, त्वचा, शुगर, बीपी या कोई यौन रोग हो, सेहत और इलाज की मुफ्त सुविधा अब हमारे घर पर ही आ गई है।
कैंप की अधिक जानकारी शहरी स्वास्थ्य केंद्र से या अपनी बस्ती की आशा से प्राप्त कीजिए।
स्वस्थ बने जीवन, हर बस्ती, हर आंगन।
राष्ट्रीय शहरी स्वास्थ्य मिशन हरियाणा।
बरसात में कई स्थानों पर लैंडस्लाइड के कारण जान माल का काफी नुकसान हुआ है।
बरसात के मौसम में लैंडस्लाइड जरूर होता है क्या?
पहाड़ों पर मिट्टी की मजबूत पकड़ नहीं होने से ही ना बारिश में लैंडस्लाइड का खतरा बढ़ता है।
तो इसमें गलती किसकी है काका?
हमारी।
हमारी गलती कैसे?
जैसे पेड़ ना लगाना और पेड़ों की कटाई, गलत खेती करना, लापरवाही से कूड़ा करकट फेंक देना जिससे पानी की निकासी का रुक जाना, ऐसी गलतियाँ कभी नहीं करो
और लैंडस्लाइड से बचो।
बिल्कुल,
आपके हित में तत्पर एनडीए में।
Welcome back. You're watching News Night. India on Thursday said Pakistan has once again exposed its farcical approach by denying available legal remedies to Kulbhushan Jadhav against his death sentence, which is also in contravention of the International Court of Justice's verdict, and asserted that it will explore further options in the case.
What appears is that Pakistan's actions with regard to the ordinance, the whole exercise of not providing documents as requested by us, of not providing unhindered, unimpeded and unconditional consular access, as well as some of the reported unilateral action of recently approaching the High Court, all of it again exposes the complete farcical nature of Pakistan's approach. Pakistan has blocked all avenues for an effective remedy available to India. Now Pakistan stands not only in violation of the judgment of the ICJ, but its own ordinance. And in this light, India reserves its position in the matter, including its right to avail of further remedies.
Union Food Minister Ramvilas Paswan directed states to cover visually impaired people as beneficiaries under the Antyodaya Anna Yojana and ensure supply of 35 kg subsidized food grains per family. The directive has been issued after taking serious note of the Delhi High Court order that said visually impaired people are kept outside the ambit of AAY category under the National Food Security Act. In a tweet, the minister said, and I quote, "The directions of the Honorable High Court, Delhi High Court regarding coverage of disabled persons under PDS is a welcome step. I've taken it seriously and directions have been issued to all states to include all the disabled persons under the Antyodaya Anna Yojana. Under AAY, they will get 35 kg of food grains per family per month. The responsibility of identifying the beneficiaries under AAY and PWH lies with the state governments. In 2003, during the expansion of Antyodaya Anna Yojana, clear guidelines were issued. It's clearly stated to include the disabled persons also in Antyodaya Anna Yojana scheme. It is also requested to the state governments to ensure providing additional free 5 kg food grains to disabled persons under PMG, KAY and ANB package. India has embarked on its journey to be self-sufficient in terms of coal production. Speaking at the Tree Plantation Drive 2020 function, Union Home Minister Amit Shah hailed the initiatives taken under the current government to make the nation self-reliant in many aspects. Highlighting the key achievements in the coal sector, Amit Shah asserted that new reforms introduced in the last 6 years have made the sector globally competitive.
छह सालों का देखें तो कोयला मंत्रालय ने अनेक नए इनिशिएटिव मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में दी है और प्रहलाद भाई ने ये 1-1.25 साल के अंदर इसको बहुत गति देने का काम किया है। पहले जब कोयला और खनिज की खदानें होती थी तब खनिज क्षेत्र के मजदूरों के लिए वो वहां की जनता के लिए कोई विचार नहीं करता था। डिस्ट्रिक्ट मिनरल फंड का गठन कर आज लगभग 39,000 करोड़ रुपया नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने वो क्षेत्र जहां खदानें लगी हैं इसके विकास के लिए लगाया है और 35,000 छोटे-छोटे प्रकल्प अब तक पूरे कर दिए गए।
And today is the National Broadcasting Day. On this day in 1927, the first ever radio broadcast in the country went on air from Bombay station under the Indian Broadcasting Company. On the 8th of June 1936, the Indian State Broadcasting Service became All India Radio. In a tweet, Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar wished people of the country on National Broadcasting Day. He said that radio is the only medium of entertainment which is most accessible source of news across the country. And now we're getting you a heartwarming story of people who were thrown away from each other due to coronavirus-induced lockdown. A 3-year-old girl was separated from her parents in Israel due to the announcement of the lockdown, and she was finally reunited with her parents. But not before she had to travel without any relatives on a flight after going with her grandmother there in the month of January.
For this 3-year-old girl, the distance in time meant so much more than the distance that boundaries of nations and the COVID-19 pandemic-induced lockdown has created. She was away from the warmth of her mother's lap for as long as 6 months, and the time clearly took its toll as she walked into her mom's tight embrace upon her return to Israel. Melania Petrushanska spent almost the sixth of her life in accidental exile after Israel sealed its borders while she was abroad on what was meant to be a very short holiday. And she had a tearful reunion possible only after an Israeli airline agreed to bring her back with a special escort. So much so that Petrushanska's mother, Alona, had to tell her daughter during video calls that planes are sick and there was no way to return her because everyone was sick. Many have said this, that the pandemic will ultimately alter the way we live in future and bring in many changes to our lifestyle. Melania and her story have assured us that notwithstanding anything that happens in the world, the threads of pure love between a child and parents will always stand the test of time. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Well, hopefully all's well that ends well, and you all also stay well, and that's all one can say at this point. We are all struggling through, and we are trying to battle this pandemic as much as possible with all of our resources that we can muster, and that is the best that we can already do as a nation, as a people as well. Have a great night.